Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Friends You Haven't Met. Today I'm introducing you to my friend Louisa Yu. She's a combat athlete and abstract artist who, in this episode, shares about her experiences with EMDR therapy, the role of positive thinking in her healing journey from a sports-related injury, and how mindset, mental health, and athletic performance intersect and affect the other areas of her life. If you're enjoying these conversations, please take a second to like, share, subscribe, leave a rating, whatever it is, depending on what platform you're listening to this to. It really goes a long way. Thanks for watching and enjoy. Okay, cool. So I didn't even plan to intro like that. We've been recording, but normally I go, "Hey, Louisa Yu, welcome to Friends You Haven't Met." But that was really good.
That's better.
That was a lot better. Yeah. So I've been really looking forward to this because we'll be talking about some just very personal experiences of yours across different areas of your life. But the way you presented them when we were preparing for this was that as separate as these topics and themes are, they're very much interconnected in your human journey and the story we're telling today. So I wanted to preface with that to those listening that we're going to talk about sports and we're going to talk about trauma and we're going to talk about grit and solitude and just know that there's a rhythm and flow to the conversation points today. And with that being said, I think the best place to start is with your experiences in Muay Thai. So let's get right into this. Louisa, how long have you been practicing Muay Thai?
I would say probably almost 5 years now.
Really?
Yes.
It
went by fast.
Yeah, seriously. Were you always interested in the sport or sports in general? Or was it like, how did you pick it up?
The first competitive sport I did was volleyball in middle school and high school. And then my coach in high school told me, like, I think you should do jiu-jitsu because he did it. He was a black belt. And then
Your volleyball coach was a black belt in jiu-jitsu?
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
And then I did Olympic weightlifting at some point.
Right.
And this was right before I switched to Muay Thai. And then my coach was like, I think you should try boxing or like Muay Thai, some kind of martial arts. Mm-hmm. And then both of these coaches knew me very personally. And they knew about like my past and my family. And they were like, I feel like you could really use some kind of outlet.
Yeah.
So it's always in the back of my mind, like maybe I should do some kind of martial arts. And then it wasn't until I moved 2 blocks from a boxing gym that I was like, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
So I did a free trial. And then the day that I did the free trial, I signed up for a personal trainer. And then that just went evolved. I never planned to fight until I joined a strictly Muay Thai gym. Because the first gym I joined was like boxing. It was more like commercialized. And then once I joined the Muay Thai gym, then I got like super, super into it. Mm-hmm. And then I met like other active fighters who are just like, it's like all that they do. And then the gym was like super welcoming and very like I feel like my coach right now was always very supportive of like helping me grow and like figure out the sport.
Mm-hmm. What role does the sport or athletics in general play in your life?
I'd say it's probably one of the biggest parts of my life because when I go to the gym, when I go to Muay Thai, like I feel immediately motivated. Like even if I initially don't want to go, like I get there and it's kind of like my mind is just like, okay, like it's time to work.
Yeah.
So it's like a very immediate, like I feel like I'm the best version of myself. Even if like I felt like shit the day, like earlier in the day, like I know that when I go, I'm gonna feel so much better. Mm-hmm. And it's because it's like you're pushing yourself, you're doing something hard, you're sweating, like you're releasing a ton of endorphins, you're getting a lot of stress out, and then for me, it's just like I get a lot out of it every time that I go.
So one can assume without firsthand experience that Muay Thai is a physically demanding sport. Yes. My guess is that it's just as much a mental game as it is a physical one. Would you agree with that?
100%.
What are some of the key principles around developing one's mindset in a way that's required to thrive in a sport like this? Like what level of mental fortitude does one need to have?
I think like you have to be okay with being uncomfortable and being tired and being so tired and knowing that giving up is not an option. Mm-hmm. Like it does not matter how tired you are. Like if you think you're gonna faint, like you cannot give up. And that's just like something that is instilled in you the longer you do it.
Yeah.
I think it's like something you have to like learn. Like if you're just doing it for a year, you might not get to that point. But if you do it like on a consistent basis, I think you kind of build that character. And then my coach always says like you can't teach heart, which means like you can, like someone can be the most technical fighter and they can be really, really skilled, but then when it comes to a fight, if like they don't have kind of like this like animalistic side inside of them where like they want to fight and they're like ready to put it all on the line, then they don't have heart.
Yeah.
And that's something that you just kind of get from experience.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think there's something to say about sports where it's just, you know, one person compared to team sports. And you've played both. Is there like a thrill, or is there a nervousness about engaging in a sport where it's just all on you compared to you being with a team?
It is extremely anxiety inducing. Or like I'll have a fight camp and then in the beginning you're like super motivated and then at the end like you start getting nerves and then it's just kind of like, well, like why am I doing this? Like why do I always put myself through this? And I've even had fights where after the moment the fight is over, I'm just like why do I do this? Like it's just so hard. It's so hard and it's so painful.
Yeah.
And then I've had fights where like the back of my throat, I thought it was bleeding because I was breathing so hard. And it's just like the worst feeling ever.
Yeah.
And then you want to do it again.
Right.
But in terms of like team sport versus individual, I would say that like you're fighting by yourself, but in preparation for that, like you have all of your like training partners, sparring partners, all of the coaches. Like, so it is also a team effort because it reflects on the gym and your coach.
So I know you're currently on a road to recovery for a Muay Thai related injury. Can you tell me about that and how's the recovery process been?
So I tore my Achilles in February.
February's August, so
it is August.
6 months ago.
Yeah, 6 months.
Okay.
And then I had surgery March 1st. And it wasn't anything like crazy that I did. It was during training, but I just stepped backward with my left foot and I maybe landed too hard or at a weird angle. And then I didn't even know that it tore. Like I thought that I sprained it or something.
Oh my gosh.
Because it felt like I collided my leg with the person behind me.
Yeah.
And then I fell on the floor and there was no one there.
Wow.
And then everyone was just like what? Like, and I was like, I don't know what happened.
Right.
So it didn't hit me until later that night that it was torn.
That night?
Yes. Because it basically went numb. Like I couldn't put weight on it, but I just figured like if you tear something, it should be really obvious.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until I got in the shower because my friend told me like if like the back of your ankle is squishy, that means that you tore it.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm in the shower and then I was just like, I finally got the courage to touch it.
Yeah.
And it was like Jello.
Oh.
Like it was the weirdest feeling ever. It was the weirdest feeling ever. And then I was just like, I tore it. Like there's no other explanation.
Yeah.
Like 100% tore it. And then I was up till like 2 a.m. that night, and then I couldn't sleep.
Yeah, no.
Because I'm just like I tore my Achilles. Like it's like
how serious is this?
It's like a life sport-ending injury.
Yeah.
And then, so then I got out of bed, and then I went on my computer at my desk, and then I had a cup of coffee from the day before, and it spilled on my white rug.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm scrubbing it in the dark at like 2 a.m. And I was just like, what
is happening?
Why is this happening?
But I know you mentioned that you recovered a lot faster than what the doctors told you, right? So what did they say it was supposed to be?
They told me 6 to 12 months for full recovery. And the moment my surgeon said that, I was like, okay, so 6 months.
Yeah.
Like I just decided.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I have put so much work into training, and I knew that like I was going to be really good with PT and just like doing the work. And I've also heard a lot about like believing that you're going to heal makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Like if you're just constantly like, oh, like I'm going to be injured forever. Like, oh, like I don't know if the PT is going to work. Like it might not work as well as it could.
Right. And I'm sure there's like a lot of science behind that, right? Like what you're thinking is affecting your physical performance. I'm sure like with stuff like recovery and healing.
Yeah. So I actually attribute how fast I was healing to the way that I was thinking.
Oh.
Because I think it made a huge difference.
Yeah.
Because I never, like, I had, like, some moments where I was just like, this sucks. Like, it sucks that I got injured.
Yeah.
But it's like, I didn't really spend much time, like, thinking about that. It was more of like, okay, like, I'm going to go to PT. Like, what
Yeah.
else can I do?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Wow. Do you follow David Goggins?
I do.
At all by chance?
I do.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
do.
Like I
do.
love Goggins and his whole thing about basically like defying the odds through your mindset and basically achieving these physical feats that people pretty much say are impossible and couldn't or shouldn't be done because your body wasn't made for it in that way. But his approach of being like, it's impossible till someone says it's impossible till someone does it.
Yeah.
Right. And so much of it comes to your mindset.
Yeah.
And that we're basically capable of 2.5 times more, like with this 40% rule, like 2.5 times more than we're actually let on. Is like, people tell you 6 to 12 months. You said 6, and here you are. This is my first time seeing you. You're not in the cast. That's great. When did you take the cast off?
I got the cast off a while ago.
Yeah.
But right now I got cleared to do plyometrics.
Okay.
But I haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it later this week. But that's like that might be the last thing is like plyometrics and running.
And that's what, like jumping movements and stuff like that? Okay.
So I can like shuffle.
Uh-huh.
I think I can skip because I did it accidentally. Like
accidentally skipped.
Yeah. So I was just
feeling
like,
so whimsical.
Yeah. But then it's also like when I was like really, really like in the beginning stages, I would have dreams that I was running.
Wow.
Like my mind was going.
You're going there.
I was going.
Oh my gosh.
So it was just like because I have a really hard time crying. And then I would go to the gym, I'd be driving home, and then I'll just have this like visual pop into my head of like me fighting and like having my comeback fight.
Yeah.
And then it would make me emotional.
Wow.
And then I was just like, something is happening up here
Right.
where it was like you're gonna go back.
Yeah. I was super excited to explore that. But before we go into the trauma and therapy side of things, which is the other side of that coin,
The fun side.
in our pre-interview discussion, I asked you for 1 to 2 themes, phrases, or words that are most prominent in your life right now, and you said grit and repetition, adding that these two things go hand in hand. What does grit and repetition mean to you, and why are they so important?
I say they go hand in hand because I think grit, it showed up a lot in my life, especially with the injury. Like I saw it kind of play out of like, just like not listening to what other people were saying about how long it was going to take. And just kind of like inviting the hard part of the healing process. And I felt like I was trying to like embrace it because I knew that if I was able to do this hard thing, there would be something at the end. And I feel like with repetition, it's not very fun. It's really boring, and like you don't really see progress on like a day-to-day or weekly basis. But after a few months, if you show up every day, you're gonna see like a very significant thing. So I feel like just being able to like do the boring stuff and just stick with it can change your life, basically, like if you're able to do it. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people are like oh, like what's like the hack, or like what's like the trick that I can use to do this faster. Like
Right.
You can't do it faster.
There's no shortcuts.
You just have to do it.
Yeah. So let's transition to the other side of this coin, which is about your recent experiences navigating trauma through EMDR therapy. So before we get into that, I just want to say I really appreciate your openness in talking about this. It's not beyond me that we're going to some deeply personal places in your story. So I want to take a moment to acknowledge your willingness to be vulnerable in this way and have the conversation. I want to ask about the internal process of deciding to go to therapy because, and I speak from experience, and I feel like this is the experience for many people, just deciding to go to therapy.
Yeah.
Much less acknowledging that you even need to go or even realizing that there's some kind of trauma to address is a hurdle that many people don't get past. So what was the process like for you in recognizing and acknowledging a traumatic experience and then following through with the decision to go to therapy?
So I actually started therapy my freshman year of college, which was 2012.
Okay.
And then so I had done talk therapy for a few years. I went to a few different therapists.
And that's like the traditional
Yes.
therapy. Like when most people say therapy, they're
Yes.
talking about when you're just talking to someone,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah. And then it wasn't until, so I started with my EMDR therapist in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And then the therapist before her, I was with for almost a year. And it was talk therapy. And she was basically like, I can't help you anymore. Like, you need trauma therapy.
Oh, okay.
And then so from 2012 to 2018, it was like I was doing therapy, but like it was like very like incremental results where like logically I knew what to do, and like I logically knew a lot of things about therapy and mental health, but it wasn't translating. Because with trauma, it's like you can't like talk out of it, you can't reason through it.
Yeah.
Because it's basically like it's like a bodily reaction where like you get triggered and you get this like your body thinks you're in that moment again.
You're like, your fight or flight.
And it's like you
activates.
can't talk through that.
Right.
So then she told me to get EMDR. So then I started it in 2019. I did one therapist at first for a month and it went awful. Like it was like I felt like I went backwards.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm going to try this one more time. So I found my current therapist and I told her what happened. And she was like, oh, like you went too fast. Like it should not feel that way. Like
Yeah.
I can help you kind of like work into it.
Mm-hmm.
So I did it for a year with her. And it was like, I tell her even now, I'm like, if I ever get married, you're invited to my wedding. Because I feel like everything that I have right now is because I did therapy with her.
Wow.
Like 100%.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Can you explain what EMDR therapy is and why was it right for you as opposed to traditional talk therapy?
So it stands for eye movement desensitization and processing.
Okay.
So basically the idea is that when you have a traumatic memory, it's in a part of your brain where if you get triggered, you think it's happening again.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels very real. And then when you think about other memories, like from like whatever, you don't feel anything. You don't feel that like emotional charge.
Right.
So they're in a different part of your brain.
Yeah, it's literally that triggered feeling.
Yes.
Like when people actually
Yes.
get seriously triggered, they're thinking it's happening again, whatever
Yeah.
that thing is. Okay.
So the goal of the therapy is to move that memory into the other part of your brain where you think about it and you don't feel anything.
Yeah.
And then like it worked really well for me where like we had very specific memories that like I had to process.
Mm-hmm.
And then now when I think about them, I don't feel anything,
Wow.
which is insane because it would be like I would see something in just like my day-to-day life and I would get triggered.
Yeah.
And then now when I see it, it's like I don't even think twice about it.
What does the therapy actually consist of? What are you doing to move a memory from one part of the brain to the other?
So it's kind of like it's supposed to mimic like bilateral eye movement.
Okay.
So similar to REM sleep. So your eyes are like going like this, and then you pick a specific memory that you want to focus on, and then it's like it's hard to explain because it's like you're thinking about the memory in your brain, and it's like kind of whatever comes up, and a lot of different things can come up where like you just kind of like come to a certain realization of like, oh, like I didn't deserve that, or like, oh, like there's nothing I could have done.
Wow.
And you kind of see it from like a different point of view.
Yeah.
Because like let's say you have a traumatic memory and you're like, oh, that was my fault, or
Right.
like, oh, I deserve that, and then you see it like in EMDR and it's like, oh, like that was not my fault.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can like, I don't know, like see like how damaging it was.
Yeah.
So I think they say that with EMDR, like it gets worse before it gets better. Because it can bring up a lot of emotions that you kind of like forgot about or like were kind of dormant.
Mm-hmm.
But then once you get through like the initial hump, then you can kind of like, you'll start feeling a little lighter.
Yeah.
And then you notice like you're not as triggered with
Mhm.
certain things, but
Mhm.
it definitely takes like a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's fascinating. I'd never heard of
Mhm.
EMDR until you brought it up. What were some of the major breakthroughs you realized because of the therapy?
So some of my core beliefs
Mm-hmm.
growing up just from childhood and just like from my experiences was that I was unlovable, and that like I didn't really deserve good things and that I wasn't capable of doing much.
Okay.
So just like very low self-esteem, very low confidence. And then after therapy, I started to feel a lot more like empowered and more like you do have control over your life. Like you don't have to, like, you're not, like, these things that happen to you don't have to dictate where your life is heading. Because I think I felt like I was dealt a very bad hand of cards, and I felt very like, well, I can't do anything. Like, I'm just gonna be stuck here, and I just have to live my life like this forever.
Right.
So then after therapy was when I started to see like, oh, like I can do something.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, without mentioning any specifics, and if you can't answer this, were there things that you didn't even realize were, I'm trying to think of another word for problem, but, you know, were there things you didn't even realize you needed to address or confront that came out during this process? Were they also like as significant and major as the initial reasons why you started doing EMDR therapy?
No, so I didn't even realize this, but I had a very negative self-talk. Like, the way that I talked to myself in my head was very like, oh, like, you're so stupid. Like, oh, of course you'd do that. And I didn't even notice until she pointed it out. And then it's like, I don't talk to my friends that way.
Right.
And I was just like, why am I so mean to myself?
Right.
And it was just so normal for me.
Yeah.
So one of the big things that I had to learn was like being more compassionate to myself and not just like being very like self-blame or like I had to learn how to be kind to myself.
Yeah. I think that's a theme that's come up in many conversations that I've had, like being kind to oneself. And, you know, I think you hit it on the nail, which is like, you don't treat your friends a certain way. So why do we treat ourselves a different way?
We're
like,
so much harder on ourselves.
Right. It's like, are we not also a person that like is deserving of
Apparently
this compassion and kindness? Right. Yeah. So no, I wanted to ask, like, how does one learn compassion?
So for me, I think like the things that I do, like Muay Thai, working out, that is self-love. Because I know that it's healthy for me, and I know it makes me feel really good, even though it's hard.
Yeah.
And I feel like doing hard things means that you care about yourself.
Yeah.
And then I really like looking at it that way, because if there's ever a day where it's like, oh, I don't want to go train, it's like, if you go, like you know you'll feel better. So it's just like finding those things that you really enjoy and giving yourself the time to do them, I think for me is really important.
So I want to start connecting some of these dots. Going back to Muay Thai, you told me during our pre-interview that your sports mindset and your work ethic couldn't transfer to other parts of your life until you dealt with your trauma. So I'd love to know more about that. In what ways has your mindset changed from before and after your therapy experiences? And why did the therapy have to happen for these, you know, seemingly unrelated changes to be able to happen?
I would say that before the therapy, I was like kind of like self-sabotaging myself, where like if I had a goal, like let's say I wanted to switch careers, I would just be like, oh, you can't do that. Like, you're not smart enough.
Yeah.
Or like I would start something and then wouldn't be able to follow through because I didn't have this confidence that I could do it. And then after therapy, I started with sports because I was doing powerlifting and Olympic lifting.
Okay.
And then, so my numbers were gradually increasing, and it was because I was showing up on a daily basis. And I would show up every day, and I was like, why can't I be like this at work? Or like when I'm like trying to learn a new skill.
Right.
So it's something that definitely took time, but I think I started to notice like if you can do this in sports, like you can do this in other things. So then when I did want to switch careers, I was working as a office assistant for 4 years. And then I was always like too scared to switch because I was like, well, I'm not smart enough, or like I'm not able to learn something new.
Yeah, I see.
And then I started with like, I would go to Starbucks after work and study copywriting at the time. And then, so it was a very slow progress, or very slow journey, where like I was maybe studying for like 1 to 2 years until I got my first full-time job. And then it's been 5 years since I've been doing copywriting, and I have what I would say is probably my dream job. And then when I was interviewing for it this year, right after I got injured, which was perfect timing, I didn't even realize like this was exactly what you wanted 5 years ago when you first started.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's hard to see progress, like, on a day to day. And I kind of thought about like where I was when I started like studying at Starbucks, like working office jobs. Like this is exactly what I wanted. And then, yeah, just from like sports and doing things that took a lot of time, and just seeing like you ended up exactly where you wanted to, like even if it took 5 years, like you were still able to do it.
Right.
So I just remembering like you can achieve what you want, like I think no matter how long it takes.
Yeah. And the therapy, am I right in saying that it helped heal, like, say, parts of you that were holding yourself back, like your self-talk and like giving yourself permission to pursue things that you wanted, but now that you've grown better habits and like, you know, giving yourself permission to go pursue things and like talking to yourself more positively, now you can apply your athletic, you know, performance ethic to just other things, like the copywriting, your copywriting journey.
Because I think now I can see very clearly like if I want to do something, I'll figure it out. And I have a lot of confidence and like self-assurance around that.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was very like immediate, like no.
Yeah.
So that's why I attribute like everything I have now to therapy, because I think I would have definitely self-sabotaged at some point.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So let's zoom out and talk about something you feel very strongly about, which is following your passion and living in alignment with who you want to become. What does it mean to you to live in alignment, and how does someone do that?
For me, living in alignment is like paying attention to your desires. So that could be something very simple as like a way that I gauge it is like when I think about this thing that I want to do, does it make me feel expansive, like excited and light, or do I feel like constricted? So for me, like things that I really like to do are like painting, and then that's something that like growing up my parents told me like not to try to turn into something, like just to keep it a hobby.
Right.
And then I think like after therapy I was like I'm just gonna do it, like I'm just gonna go for it.
Yeah.
So then
For the joy of it.
Yeah,
you just
for
want to do
the joy.
it.
Like,
yeah.
So it's just like paying attention to like, for me it's a lot of things I enjoyed when I was a child. So like painting, volleyball, like now like I'm trying to get back into swimming. So just like holding space for things that like make you, I don't know, just like happy like to be here.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to balance it with like I feel like I'm very motivated with work and training, but then I also want to like enjoy life and like time with my friends and things like that.
Yeah. So a recurring theme in our conversation today has revolved around doing things you don't want to do, the discipline and mental fortitude it takes to do those things, and the value in knowing something to be difficult but doing it anyway. Every day, everyone is faced with a myriad of things that we should do, like and we know things to be good for us, but we just don't do it because it's hard or inconvenient. So anything from eating better or exercising or going to therapy, it's like we know that these are good for us, but we just don't do it for whatever reason. Why do you think it's so hard for the everyday person to learn a new skill or implement a new habit, even when we know it would have immediate and lasting benefits? Like, why do we get in our own way the way that we do, you think?
I would say it's because change is very uncomfortable, and your brain's job is not to make you happy, it's to help you survive.
Right.
And surviving is staying in your comfort zone and sticking with what you're familiar with. So anytime you try to change and like do a new habit or like learn something new, you're gonna feel a lot of resistance, and you're gonna think like, oh, maybe this isn't for me. But like I would say like just like understanding that it's supposed to be hard can be very helpful, because it's just kind of part of the process. If like learning something new isn't supposed to be easy. Right. Like if it was easy, then like everyone would be rich, or like everyone would have the life that they want. Like you kind of have to invite that aspect of it, and know that like some days it's going to feel really good, other days it's going to feel like crap, but then either way you're still making progress.
I have this saying that I like sharing with people, which is sucking at something is the very first step to being really good at it. And I'm amazed at how much people get in their own way and don't pursue things that they want to do or don't try new things because like they don't want to look bad doing it. And I'm like, you anyone is bad. I'm bad at 1,000 things, right? I'm only good at a few things, and even then I wouldn't, like, you know, my first piece of content sucked so bad, but I keep it up because it's like that's everyone's first step, you know. And it's one of those truths that, you know, I think people know it to be true and it makes sense. Like, you know, you don't get good at something instantly, but there's like just this mental block of not wanting to do it because it's hard, or we don't want to look bad, or we don't want to suck at it, whether publicly or privately. And it's like, you know, you just got to do it for you know, for the fun of it. In the cases where it is just like a hobby or like something for a similar experience. But, you know, that's something I've personally relearned and rediscovered for myself in recent months, which is the importance of making time for things that bring you joy. And I know you share the same sentiment. So, you know, even that, the concept of doing things for joy was something I had to redefine in my adulthood. Is like I stopped looking at things that way, you know, and particularly as someone that works a lot and tends to turn hobbies into work. Like that was like a thing I had to unlearn, is like stop trying to monetize stuff, everything, like photography, videography. Like just do it, have fun, you know, be creative and learn. So, you know, why do you think we lose this sense of doing things for the joy in and of itself, and why is it important to have that in your life?
People don't think it matters that much, like, or like, why would I do that just for fun, right? Like why use the time? Like, what's the point when I could be making money or like doing this? But then I also feel like you need that in your life. Because I used to be, because I'm like kind of like on both ends where like I resonate very much with like the David Goggins, like do whatever it takes. Right. And then I try to balance it with like if you need a break, take it. Like if you need to go to the beach to just lay there in the sun, like do it. It's a very, I agree with you, but it's a very blurry line, right? Like at what point, you know, if you're struggling at something, at what point do you say you just got to keep pushing versus like, I think it's time to take a break for myself, but you know. So I think like you have to learn how to be honest with yourself about like do I really need a break or am I slacking? Right. Like, am I just making excuses? Yeah. And I think that's something that like you figure out with time of like, did I try my absolute hardest or could I have done more? For me that comes up especially in fighting, because it's like when you're fighting in the ring, it's your responsibility and you're the only one that knows, could I have done a little bit more? Yeah. So I think that helped me like kind of translate it to the rest of my life, where it's like am I actually tired or am I just like not really believing in myself today? Yeah. And what is that process like in, you know, finding that line for yourself? Because even then, I'm sure as someone that practices it, it must be blurry at times, right? Like how can you make the decision of I can keep going or no, I really did give it my all. Yeah. I think it's just like learning how to trust yourself and like trusting that like you know yourself and you have your own best interests in mind. And then something that I like to think about is like would my future self be proud of this? Like, is this something that's kind of like helping me become the person that I want to be? And then for me, like that's like very motivating. I feel like everyone has their own reasons or like motivations, but then for me it's like I feel like I've done a lot of work in like self-growth and I want to keep going. And then so I kind of have an image in my head of like where I would like to be, and then I just kind of keep that in my mind. Yeah. You told me you believe happiness is a skill. I think it's an interesting sentiment. I'd love for you to tell me more. What do you mean by that, and why do you believe it? I feel like happiness is in the choices that you make. So let's say like you wake up and you scroll on your phone for an hour, you're going to be in a significantly different mood than if like you got up and you took a walk or like you read a book. which I know is very like, it's a very like self-help kind of thing to say.
Right, right.
But I've noticed like it is true. It makes a big difference in how you feel. Like if you're consciously like doing things that you know are good for you or that you enjoy. So for example, like I don't really like working at home, and then when I feel myself kind of like zoning out or like whatever, I will go to Starbucks or like I'll change my environment, and then I'll feel significantly better. That's like a very minor example, but it's like I feel like small decisions like that can make a big difference.
Yeah.
And you can build your happiness by filling your life with things that you enjoy. But then I feel like that if I heard that like years ago, like before therapy and when I was just kind of like in the midst of like mental health stuff, I feel like that messaging doesn't work because like you can do all of those things and you still feel like crap.
Right.
So I feel like it's like important to mention that like for me, like I had to be at a place where I had dealt with my trauma and I was more healed to even be able to think about these things. So I feel like it's like I feel like grateful that I can think about these things because there was a time where like I felt like really basic things like, oh, like go take a walk, go like do this. It's like it does not make any difference.
Right.
Yeah.
At least just not past the time you're taking the walk.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But
Yeah.
I mean, to your point, you said that you had to address stuff in therapy before that sentiment fully applied. But
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is like that was you making the choice, right, to go to therapy.
Yeah.
Which then empowered you to be able to have the autonomy in all these other ways. Louisa, we are just about done here, but before we wrap it up, where can people keep up with you and what upcoming projects should they be on the lookout for?
They can keep up with me on Instagram, which is at Louisa Yu with 3 U's.
3 U's.
Upcoming-
Y-U-U-U.
Yes,
Yeah.
Y-U-U-U. Upcoming things, I'm hoping to have my first comeback fight maybe towards the end of the year.
Wow.
Which
in
I'm
the same
very-
year that
Yes.
your Achilles tore? Wow,
Yes,
okay.
Very excited.
Yeah.
And then I do post a lot of painting things on my Instagram and just like any random thoughts that I have. So
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Well, I loved that we were able to sit down and have this conversation. I hope you enjoy being able to tell your story, and I hope people get value in hearing, just the things that you've overcome, the mindset that you've developed, and the way that you've taken control of certain aspects of your life, from like your daily actions to affect your happiness, to really confronting things that were embedded in part of your identity from a young age. So Louisa, thanks again for taking the time, and thank you
for having me.
All right, that's it.